Right now, inside your body, something is being destroyed. Not because you're sick, not because something went wrong, because that's exactly what your body is supposed to do. At this very moment, specialized cells called osteoclasts are eating your bones, dissolving them, breaking them down piece by piece. And right behind them, another type of cell, osteoblasts, is rebuilding everything from scratch. This process never stops. It's running right now while you're reading this, while you sleep, while you think you're just sitting still. And here's the part that should make you stop for a second. The skeleton you have today is not the same skeleton you had 10 years ago. Every single atom of it has been replaced, not most of it, all of it. So who exactly are you? Biologists call this process bone remodeling, but that name makes it sound like a renovation, like you're just replacing the carpet in an old apartment. It's not that. It's more like tearing the entire building down brick by brick while someone continues living inside it. The building is always there, but none of the original bricks are. Your body replaces about 10% of your skeleton every year, slowly, constantly, without asking your permission. The collarbone you broke at age 12 is gone. The jaw that grew during puberty is gone. The hip that carried you through your 20s is gone. What's there now is a complete reconstruction, built from food you ate, from calcium and phosphorus your body pulled from things you consumed without thinking about them. You are, quite literally, made of what you ate. And it's not just your bones. The cells lining your stomach are replaced every 2 to 9 days. Your skin cells last about 2 to 3 weeks. Your red blood cells live roughly 4 months. Even your neurons, the cells in your brain that you probably thought were permanent, most of them are undergoing constant molecular replacement too. The proteins inside them, the structures that hold your memories, your personality, your sense of who you are, they are being recycled and rebuilt on a schedule you never approved. A researcher named Paul Davies, a physicist and astrobiologist, put it this way: the human body is not a thing, it's a process. It's more like a wave than a rock. A wave looks like a stable object moving across water, but the water itself isn't going anywhere. The wave is just a pattern, a shape that energy is passing through. You are a pattern. The question that follows from that is one philosophers have been fighting about for centuries. And it didn't start with biology. It started with a ship. In ancient Athens, there was a famous thought experiment about a ship called the Ship of Theseus. The hero Theseus sailed the ship back from Crete, and the Athenians kept it as a monument for generations. But over the years, the wooden planks rotted and had to be replaced. Then the mast, then the sails. Eventually, every single piece of the original ship had been swapped out for a new one. Philosophers asked, is it still the same ship? And then someone asked the harder question. What if someone had collected all the original rotted planks and rebuilt a second ship from them, the exact original materials, in the original arrangement? Which one is the real Ship of Theseus? For 2,000 years, this felt like an abstract puzzle, a thing for philosophers to argue about over wine. Then biology caught up. Because now we know, you are the Ship of Theseus, not as a metaphor, as a biological fact. And the puzzle didn't get easier when it became real. It got harder. Because here's what the science actually shows. Your body isn't just replacing materials randomly. The pattern is being maintained with extraordinary precision. When an osteoclast dissolves part of your femur, the osteoblast that follows doesn't build something different. It builds the same structure, the same density, the same microarchitecture. It reads some kind of blueprint that tells it exactly what used to be there and reconstructs it. The information survives even when the matter doesn't. Researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, led by Jonas Friesen, spent years measuring the age of cells in different tissues using carbon-14 dating, a technique originally developed to date ancient artifacts. What they found was that different tissues renew at radically different rates. Fat cells average about 8 years. Heart muscle cells are replaced so slowly that a 50-year-old still has heart cells from their mid-20s. Some neurons in the cerebral cortex appear to last an entire lifetime. The picture that emerged wasn't a simple story of constant replacement. It was a mosaic, a patchwork of timescales. Parts of you are very old, parts of you are brand new. Right now, you are simultaneously ancient and newborn, depending on which tissue you're looking at. So when someone asks how old you are, the honest answer is, it depends on which part of you they're asking about. But here's where it gets genuinely strange. If your body is constantly replacing its materials, and if the information that defines your structure is what's being preserved, then the real question isn't what you're made of. The question is what holds the pattern together. And neuroscientists think the answer is memory. Not just the memories you can recall, not just the image of your childhood bedroom or the sound of someone's voice, the memory encoded in every cell of your body about what shape it should be, what function it should perform, what signal it should send. Your cells remember what they're supposed to be. That cellular memory is what keeps the wave moving in the same direction year after year. Antonio Damasio, a neuroscientist at the University of Southern California, has spent decades arguing that the self is not a fixed thing stored in one place in the brain. It's a process, a narrative the brain is constantly reconstructing in real time, moment to moment, using the body as its anchor. The feeling of being you, that continuous sense that there's a you experiencing all of this, is generated fresh every single moment. Which means, in a very real sense, you don't persist. You are recreated. Every morning when you wake up, your brain reconstructs the character of you from scratch. It pulls on memory, on body signals, on the stored patterns of who you've been, and it produces, once again, the experience of being you. This isn't a new age idea. This is what the evidence points to. And once you understand this, a few strange things about human experience start to make more sense. Why do people change so fundamentally after a major illness? Because the disruption breaks the pattern of reconstruction. The self that gets rebuilt afterwards doesn't have the same inputs. Why do people sometimes feel like they're not the same person they were 10 years ago? Because in a very literal sense, they aren't. Not the same atoms, not the same cells, not even the same neural connections. The brain rewires itself continuously based on experience. Why does identity feel so fragile after trauma or after a major loss? Because the pattern of reconstruction gets interrupted. The self is harder to reassemble when the anchors that usually define it have changed. And why, despite all of this, do most people feel a powerful, continuous sense of being the same person from childhood to old age? Because the pattern is remarkably stable. The information survives even as the matter passes through you and out the other side. Your personality, your values, the particular way you respond to the world, these patterns are encoded in your neural architecture and continuously reconstructed with enough fidelity that the experience of continuity is real, even when the physical substrate isn't. You are not a thing. You are a story your body keeps telling about itself. And here's the part that matters for today. Every time you resist change, every time you insist that you can't be different because this is just who you are, you're arguing for the permanence of something that science tells you was never permanent to begin with. Every atom of your skeleton that defined you at 20 is gone. The architecture was rebuilt. And yet here you are with the same fears, the same self-image, the same story about your limits. That's not biology. That's a choice. You've already been rebuilt several times. The only thing that makes you the same person is the pattern you keep choosing to reconstruct. Which means the question isn't whether you can change. The question is whether you'll finally update the blueprint.